Thank you for tuning into our podcast. We are coming to you from Holyoke, Massachusetts. I am your host, Carrie, and joining me is Holyoke's very own local historian and creator of the historical tours of Greater Holyoke, Robert Kalum. And he offers both public and private tours, as well as presentations of the local canal systems, reservoirs, cemeteries, and churches, as well as various parks and streets in Holyoke, South Hadley, and Chicopee, Mass. Now you actually lead these tours and give these presentations yourself, is that correct?
That's right, and this is a very unique tour. A lot of people love to see these old gravestones of the nuns.
And today he will be educating us on the Calvary Cemetery of the Sisters of Providence. So tell us about the foundress of the Holyoke Order of Sisters of Providence.
Well, the Sisters of Providence came down from Kingston, Ontario in the year 1873. It's now the year 2023. This is the 150th anniversary of them arriving in Holyoke. They would start their own order in Holyoke in the year 1892. And between those years, they would have a nun come who was 18 years old. Her name was Catherine Horan. She would come from Ontario, and she would develop so quickly as a nun in all the ways that she was good at, and that she would become the leader of the order, and then would advocate to split off from the old order and become a new order. And they became the Sisters of Providence of Holyoke, a brand new order within the Catholic Church, supported by the Bishop of the Springfield Diocese. There are only 200 orders of nuns around the whole world, and one of them had their origins in Holyoke. That is incredible. And it's all because of Catherine Horan wanted to, seeing the great need that Holyoke had. They had so many poor people around, and they needed social services, and they needed teachers and nurses. All right, so what did she do? She found the order. She developed Bright Side area. She helped start up the St. Vincent's Orphanage for Girls, the Bright Side Orphanage for Boys. She was a great teacher. She was a great administrator. She got the first goal of having a mother house for all these nuns going. She didn't actually make that final push. She had left. She had stayed in the order, but had left being the administrator and left to do special duties. But she had that goal of getting a beautiful mother house, which was finally built in 1932. And she was well beloved by the school children, the parents, and, of course, by all the other nuns inside the group. Her name would be Sister Mary of Providence, has a name.
So tell us about the two nuns that were reburied here.
Now, remember that this cemetery, it's after the order had come here. And they had come in 1873, and they, of course, like all people, would have some people die young. So what happens is that you develop a new order, and they did that in 1881. If you do that, you need to have your own mother house, your own grounds, your own cemetery, and your connection to the old order back in Canada is now gone. Now, they had two nuns die before the cemetery was opened. And the reason they are even associated with Holyoke is that they were buried in the St. Jerome's Cemetery of Holyoke. And when they were buried there, what happened was that they didn't have the cemetery ready for the nuns yet. That cemetery was ready in 1893. And they said, can't we get our two nuns that were part of our group out of St. Jerome's Cemetery, but still in Holyoke, and move them to the Calvary Cemetery of the Sisters of Providence? And they did that. So they disinterred them and reinterred them within this new nun cemetery. Their names are Mary Teresa Clary, who died in 1881, and Sister Mary Patrick O'Halloran, who died in 1890. So these two nuns are in the very back of this old nun cemetery. So that's a very unique fact.
So quickly, before we finish the rest of our interview, just to fill our listeners in, if you want to find out more information or sign up for any of his various tours, you can check out his website at holyokecanaltour.org. And there he has both videos of the various stops along each tour and also past and present photos of the historical sites throughout as well. And if you are interested in setting up a private tour, you can email him directly at bobcat4214B@yahoo.com, and they are perfect for fun and educational outdoor activities for the whole family or for your group parties, especially those special occasions and get-togethers. They are also good for getting outdoors for the day. So getting back to our interview, tell us about the baby section.
All right, in the Catholic religion, a baby that has not been baptized that dies cannot be buried in the concentrated part of a cemetery. Now, by law, since 1881, I believe, or 1981, a baby that dies in a cemetery, dies in a hospital, is the responsibility of the hospital itself. So they're born there and die a day or two later. It's the responsibility of that hospital to bury that child. It's not responsibility of the parents unless they want to take on that responsibility. And so they started a baby section along the left edge of the Calvary Cemetery of the Sisters of Providence. And what happened, each child would get a stone in his own burial place. And if the parents wanted on the stone the name of the child and the birth year and death year, they could get that. If not, they'd have just a simple flat stone. So I've counted up, I believe, 42 babies buried in this baby section of the cemetery. It's the best they can do. Some people think they should be with the nuns in the main cemetery and have nicer stones, but compared to most children that have died in the past, this is actually a pretty special place.
Now, how is this cemetery laid out?
All right, now if you go into it, you see a statue in the beginning, and you see beautiful gates with the name of the cemetery on it. To the left is mostly empty space, so space to expand. To the right are most of the burials. As you go backwards, you find the older burials. You see the burial of Sister Catherine Horan, the sister of Mary of Providence, the foundress of the order. She's the only one with a different gravestone, a much larger and cross on the top of it. All the others are upright stones, white, and smaller than hers is. So she was the founder and most important member. She had only one different stone. The other older nuns have very similar stones to the modern nuns. In the way back, there's also a wooden chapel, an outdoor chapel, that can be used during burials. Now, if you want to find those two nuns that were disinterred and reinterred here, they're towards the back space, maybe about 4 rows in front of the others. And I'm glad that you're listening to this podcast. This is a very unique cemetery, and most people like the look of it. There's 2 cemeteries in the Brightside area. The first one, as you come off Westfield Road, is called Mount Marie Cemetery. But you keep traveling down that road another 250 yards, and on the right, you'll find this Calvary Cemetery of the Sisters of Providence. And the last thing to point out is that the name is not the name used. It was not named after the Calvary Cemetery already in Holyoke. It was named after the Calvary Cemetery in Chicopee because that was owned by the diocesan officers of Springfield, and the Order of Nuns were diocesan nuns, and they named it after the diocesan cemetery of Chicopee, the Calvary Cemetery of the Sisters of Providence. So thank you very much.
And thank you, Robert, for educating us on your tours, and we want to thank our listeners for tuning in. And you can also tune in to a large selection of our other podcasts and much more at his website. Again, that's holyokecanaltour.org. And again, you can email him directly for private tours or to inquire about anything else at bobcat4214B@yahoo.com. And be sure to keep an eye out for his upcoming 2024 season tours and more as they become available.